to the daily space weather, Earth weather, viewer chat live stream. It's take two. And if you saw the previous one, that was fun. But now we've decided to use a different browser, which will remain unnamed. And I mean, that's going to make things super easy because now things will load rapidly. So let's take a look at the closest star here, the most interesting one at which to gaze. It's known as El Sol, Helios, etc. Oh, yeah. All right, so yeah, pardon the delay there on getting the second stream started. I had to import bookmarks and so on so that we can show you the data quickly. All right, so we're not going to be talking about extraterrestrials too much, but yeah, extraterrestrials. That's a thing. And I want to duplicate this tab here because I want to show the X-ray flux at the beginning. And we're going to load a bunch of other data sets here of the closest star. So pull up a chair, break out the coffee. Today I'm drinking Kona Blend. That's Hawaiian coffee for those of you following. We'll put your chats up on the screen. I'll talk about how there are no extraterrestrials. So Donald Trump has told some branch of government to release all the information about extraterrestrials, which means you're not going to get any information about extraterrestrials because there are no extraterrestrials. At least there's no evidence of them, at least not compelling evidence. And yeah, it's a thing that I just don't believe in because through a preponderance of the evidence, this is how we come to believe or not believe things. So if it's plausible, it might be believable, but not plausible. So anyway, don't expect any information about aliens to come out because it's just ridiculous. Let's talk about space weather. In that, yeah, I mean, and look, if you're viewing this video from a different plane of existence, a spaceship, a different solar system, a different timeline, a different dimension, a different universe, multiverse, definitely let us know in the comments. If you're an extraterrestrial, we definitely want to know about that. It's just that I don't believe you because there's no evidence that anybody is visiting Earth from afar. And when you see some unexplainable phenomenon that wouldn't be from nature, even though humans are part of nature, humans are the likely culprit time and time again. When there's unexplainable spooky stuff flying around in the air, guess who made it? Humans. So deal with it. I don't know what to tell you. There are no aliens. At least none that have shown them. Now, maybe there's a reason why there are none. Maybe there's some weird formula. And everybody's going to all discover each other at the same time. That would be pretty cool. What if humans and dozens of other spacefaring species all went out into space and were like, hey, bro, how's it going, bro? Did you see what Bitcoin did, bro? That would be sweet. Explain Rh negative blood, Dan. I'm not an evolutionary biologist, so I'm going to stay away, far away from Rh negative or Rh positive blood. Not going to be talking Rh factor today or possibly ever on the channel. But I don't know how it relates to aliens, so I don't think it does relate to aliens. I'm sure there is a regular old everyday biological perspective on it, just like everything else. It's all terrestrial, folks. When in doubt, it's humans. All right, and I'm going to put your comments up here. Let me actually put them up. There are your comments. And I'm going to get to those in a minute while I load up more layers here because, again, I'm using a different browser now. So I've got to add some more layers. So we're going to put up the SDO. Yeah, we'll do 94. That's cool. There's 94 angstroms from SDO. And we'll also put up the HMI instrument. So let's get rid of that and add images of the photosphere. So there's the solar intensity gram, and wow, look at the massive dip in sunspots. We are expecting to have, we could drop all the way down to 0 sunspots, folks. Look at that. I mean, that is a solar disk almost devoid of umbre. Now, if we look at the 171 angstroms, you will see some active regions there. But yeah, that is a really inactive sun. So this is like, it doesn't look like solar minimum conditions, folks, because the magnetic fields, the solar polar fields, that is, they are not fixated at the heliographic poles. That's sort of the most important feature of solar minimum. But still, that is a very inactive sun. Here's 193 angstroms. Let's actually bring up 211 here. That's the best wavelength to show coronal holes, 211 angstroms. And you can see one rotating in here. That's going to provide a high-speed wind in a couple of days. And let's go on to some more data here. Here's cosmic ray flux over the past 24 hours, 30 days, and the past 40 years. I'm sorry, 60 years. The past 60 years of cosmic ray flux. And I would note that each cosmic ray minimum coincides with solar maxima. Each cosmic ray maximum, the one happening around 2009, 2010, was the deepest solar minimum of our lifetimes and indeed of the space age. Here's one of the producers of cosmic ray flux, Cygnus X3 high mass X-ray binary. It's a very weird object. If you want to read about Cygnus X3, please do. It's a very odd object, and it features a white dwarf orbiting an even more massive object at incredibly high speeds, like 1,400 kilometers per second or something like that. So this star is like orbiting another massive, more massive object faster than the solar wind. So that's an interesting object. And one of the jets that's coming out of this disk of plasma just happens to be oriented right at Earth. It's at about 32,000 light years distance, and it's the only known cosmic ray point source. Cygnus X3, high mass X-ray binary, located at about 32,000 light years distance in the Milky Way galaxy. And this object has about a 4.8 hour periodicity. You can actually see it here on the daily chart. And that is how fast that thing orbits that other thing. These are the X-rays from it, by the way, not the particles. Don't confuse X-rays with cosmic ray flux. Cosmic ray flux is particles, and this is photons. Anyway, here's the latest Hux forecast. We showed it a few minutes ago, and then there were some technical difficulties involving a crystal ball landing on my surge suppressor and shutting off my PCs. So there's no new space weather on the way at the moment, according to University of Reading's Hux forecast, but there is a coronal hole high-speed stream on the way in a couple of days. We'll go to the real-time solar wind next to see if there is any glancing blow impact from yesterday, because there was a forecast yesterday with University of Reading, and we agreed on. And there's when it was supposed to happen late in the day yesterday. Now, let me fix this here, because this is, I like to use the black background. It's more pleasing to the eye. And of course, we also do show, the interplanetary KP plus AP. I think those are all the frames we usually show, right? It doesn't look the same. What's up with that? Active spacecraft, mag plus solar wind. All right, that's good enough. That shows the most important things. So the top pane here, this is the magnetic field, the interplanetary magnetic field, and we just actually had a minor impact here. So this sudden change in the magnetic field, that is the kind of thing from a space weather impact. And from the rest of the data there, that looks like a coronal mass ejection. but it's very minor. That's the glancing blow, it looks like. So that's just the past day there as measured by the ACE Plus Discover. They're located at Lagrangian point 1. As they must measure the solar wind from outside the Earth's system. All right, so let me, let's see. Anthony H-K6N says, ancient aliens explaining pyramids or ancient wonders is insulting, but it'd be weird if there wasn't aliens. I mean, I guess, but it would be weird if there was aliens too. There's a few theories in that. Dark forest theory seems reasonable. I don't know what that means. RH negative is just a mutation. Could be. What we know is a drop. What we don't know is an ocean. Drip, drip. Yeah, facts. Here's NOAA's forecast for space weather from the Space Weather Prediction Center. And NOAA's not forecasting any space weather. Again, the sun is very inactive. Radio flux is going to continue to drop here unless some new sunspots rise or form. At the moment, 10.7 centimeter radio flux all the way down to 118 solar flux units. 118 SFU. Sunspot number, according to the King's Observatory, the King of Belgium, that is. Yeah, Belgium, it has a king. Sunspot number now down to almost 40. It's like 41 sunspots now, so a continued dip in sunspots. And if you're one of these folks who's spooked of low solar activity, then it might be time for you to enter. Of course, the sun isn't going to kill you. It's the source of all life and energy on the earth, arguably. So the sun really is your friend. However, if you're spooked of an inactive sun, it's bunker time. Because you be in bunk, 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 debunked, bunker time. That's a reference to Nancy Sinatra, if you weren't aware. Let's check for additional CMEs. Any new ones on the way? I kind of doubt it, but we'll do the full analysis here to give you some good info so you can be confident when you tell people there's a CME on the way or there's not. Is it going to spark doomsday? No. The solar cycles have been stable for probably 4 million plus years. I'm talking 11-year cycles, folks, for millions of years. If you're a catastrophist, you should read about gradualism because it's more likely to be an actual description of reality. Next, we're going to look at Stereo A's coronagraph. The Stereo A Core 2 Space Weather Beacon, because it gives us additional perspective. And perspective is good. That's part of the reason why we're free speech advocates on the channel, because trying to silence people is not effective. It's fascism, and it's evil, and it doesn't work. So, yeah, we encourage all legal speech on the channel. Just be careful, because the price of legal speech is you might make an absolute ass of yourself. So let's hope you don't do that. Fingers crossed, folks. Fingers crossed. Don't use your free speech to make yourself look like an absolute imbecile. So it looks like there actually is some activity here on the Earth side of the disk in the form of a massive prominence. So it looks like there may be a filament about to erupt. And it could have earthly directed components, so fingers crossed for that. So you see, Earth would be off in this sort of direction from Stereo A's perspective. And you can see this huge filament somewhere in between Stereo A and Earth, although that might be on the western limb. So we'll take, some additional looks at that here in a minute. But we'll show you where that prominence is coming from. This is where planets are currently located. Keep in mind, planets are not space weather. Whether or not Mercury or Venus are in retrograde or something like that probably should not be used as, investment indicators. Shout out to Stefan Burns, space weather grifter. Yeah, he gives advice on crypto trades. based on like Mercury in retrograde. It's pretty fucking pathetic and ridiculous. No spikes in the proton flux, no solar energetic particles. Again, the background flux is only at about a B4 background flux. So the X-ray flux of the sun low here, sunspot number low, radio flux will be dipping, assuming no new sunspots form or rise. Let's take a look at the heliosphere next. We'll just bring up yesterday plus today, and there is the magnetism. Earth remains right in the middle of a South Pole-oriented current sheet. Not current sheet, magnetic sector. The current sheets are just kind of at the sector boundary crossings. And yeah, it is low solar activity, but we do have a coronal hole high-speed stream about 2 days out. So we'll see a density spike and then a density dip and a velocity spike in the solar wind parameters. And here are the coronal holes to which we are referring. What did I do? Let's try again. I fumbled. All right, so here is the line of sight coronal hole plot. It's South Pole oriented coronal holes that are barely trans-equatorial. They're making it over the equator, so we can expect to see a high-speed wind from this one, but it's going to be fleeting. It's not going to last very long, maybe 24 to 36 hours at the most. Yeah, so that's what's going on. Coronal holes are the main feature, and you'll hear people saying a bunch of nonsense about coronal holes, that they can forecast earthquakes and all kinds of other crap that just simply is not backed up by any data and has zero predictive value. So these are North Pole oriented coronal holes. Eventually these fields will fixate at the south heliographic pole. These are South Pole oriented coronal holes with field lines oriented toward the sun. These field lines are oriented away from the sun. Coronal holes, the current dominant feature of the closest star. And let me bring your chats back on the screen here. What do we have here? All right, I don't know what any of that means, so I'm just going to move on. All right, so let's, I gotta actually, I'm going to go back to the home page. I'm going to show you how to navigate the NISP products. So that's the National Integrated Synoptic Program. And these are the data that we look, these are the data that we look at from the National Sunspot Observatory. So we like to look at the magnetogram first. So gong magnetograms right there. And we'll bring up L Tide. We also like to look at red light. So the gong intensitygram. We'll stick with L Tide for all of these. And last but not least, the hydrogen alpha imagery. So it does come in color as well, which might look cooler, but it doesn't show the prominences that are hanging off the edge. So we use the grayscale for that reason. Once again, there's L Tide. And let's take a look at, all right, so there is our L Tide magnetogram. And again, very low solar activity. We've only got like 41 sunspots at the moment. And once again, if you are spooked of low sunspot numbers, then now is the time to jump into the bunker. Just keep in mind, folks, that we'll go back to like nearly 200 sunspots again sometime soon. There are a bunch of sunspots on the far side of the solar disk right now. So the sun's not shutting down. The sun's not going to kill you. The sun's not going to destroy civilization. Even if we had a Carrington-like event, it's not going to destroy all the satellites. It's not going to destroy all the electronics on the ground. It's not going to kill everybody. It's not going to melt your silverware. There are a lot of ridiculous claims on YouTube about what the sun can, will, and has done. And you got to, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. All right, that's a Carl Sagan quote. So there's that. Facts. Facts don't give a fuck about your cult. Here's red light imagery. And as you can see, there are barely any sunspots on the Earth side of the disk. But there are plenty on the other side. And Let's check and see if any new active regions are rising, because it looked like some were rising yesterday. And indeed, we do see some magnetic filaments here on that eastern limb. So there are some sunspots back there, folks. The sun's not shutting down. You'll be fine. The sun is a deep cyclical, and it's actually kind of predictable because it has these 11-year cycles where it goes from almost no sunspots for an extended period with the solar polar fields fixated at the poles. Then they rotate around, and that's solar maximum when the coronal holes are kind of on the equator, which is right around where they are now. And this solar cycle actually featured a coronal hole shortage at the beginning of the cycle, and now it's making up for that. So we can expect to see lots of coronal mass ejections. And from a solar plasma output perspective, solar cycle 25, the one we're currently in, appears to be an even stronger solar cycle than solar cycle 23. So, I mean, you can't really know how strong a cycle was until it was done, but solar cycle 25 is not a weak cycle by any stretch of the imagination. It's average at minimum. And so if anybody's telling you the sun is shutting down, they are full of shh. Here are plasma filaments, and I would remind you that these features that you see that are bright hanging off the edge of the disk are the same type of feature as these features. Now, did we have a CME? Is there something popping off here? I'm just going to bring up today's data because I want to see a limited number of images because of that prominence that we see on stereo A. So it doesn't look like anything is lifting up. I suspect that it might just be this prominence coming into view. So it doesn't look like there's anything new on the way, but there are quite a few filaments on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk here. So this one here could definitely become an earthly directed solar storm. I don't know if we've named that one or not, but you could name it on X if you like, if it hasn't already been named. Just follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament and tag @SmashoMash on the tweet, and we'll be happy to name a filament after your friends, your foes, or even yourself. Don't forget to participate in America's favorite pastime, folks, naming that filament. And so that's what's up. No new space weather on the way beside the coronal hole high-speed stream coming in a couple days. And when we see the coronal hole high-speed stream, what the coronal hole high-speed stream is going to do is it's going to provide a spike in the density. The magnetic fields will probably change. You'll also see a change in the plasma temperature. Then you'll see a big decrease in the solar wind density and a big increase in the solar wind velocity at the same time. That's the telltale signature of coronal hole high-speed streams. So look for that coming in about, I'll say about 36 hours. Maybe as little as 24 hours. But yeah, no new CMEs likely on the way. We don't see them on the coronagraphs, so it is quiet out there. Over on X, we're known as @SmashoMash all over the internet. Please don't forget to visit the links in the description, as they'll show the homepage, which shows all the social media, as well as, of course, the Discord chat. That's the easiest way to send me an instant message, folks. We're active on Discord all day long, chatting about whatever we want over there. So you need an invite link to join a Discord channel. You can't just search for it and ask to join. You got to be invited. And that invite is right on the homepage at smashomash.com. So if you want to send a direct message, that's the easiest way. There's also contact information on the homepage. We're really easy to reach. If you want to advertise on the channel, become an affiliate, become a sponsor, etc., let us know. We can even get you on the cycling jerseys this year. If you're running a small to medium-sized business, I mean, a huge business is probably not going to sponsor us, but if you're running a business, we'll consider advertising you. Just let us know what you do and what you want us to represent, and it's a consideration. So I've been a living billboard since the late 90s. And that's not stopping anytime soon. Anyway, visit the links below the video, press the share button, as we appreciate the help of all of our viewers who've helped to get these videos onto people's screens. Because YouTube, frankly, does a pathetic job of promoting the channel. So, viewers, please help by pressing share. And I'm even going to put the homepage right there in the chat. Please visit links and press share. Also, press like, subscribe, etc. Leave a comment, even if you're viewing in syndication. We do see all comments. And don't forget to sort your chat to live chat so that you see all of the comments. Otherwise, there'll be censorship in your comments. It's pretty pathetic, right? What a joke. I mean, it's kind of insulting that Google purchases YouTube in 2006 and then proceeds to just incrementally destroy the world's largest video streaming platform and second largest search engine. Talk about a search monopoly. Google and YouTube are the world's two largest search engines. YouTube is powered by Google and owned by Google, which is owned by Alphabet LLC, a massive holding company, which has been buying up all the competition for a solid decade with no antitrust action of note in the US. It's pretty f***ed up. Pretty f***ed up. Barbarian says, we are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it's forever. Carl Sagan Cosmos. Yeah, I have Carl Sagan Cosmos, I think. Anyway, electron flux goes back into warning levels here and expect bad GPS performance. Here's your CTIPE coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere, electrodynamics forecast. Yeah, expect pretty bad GPS performance. But yeah, folks, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And if you have some crazy science hypothesis and literally all of the supporting data is against your hypothesis, like if you can't find one single thing, not one single shred of data or observations or anything anywhere, you should abandon that hypothesis. That is a terrible hypothesis. All right? If you, like, when we come up with a science theory, what we do is we try to disprove it because we don't want to destroy our sacred credibility by telling people a bunch of shite that isn't true. So sane people try not to do that. Nut jobs, what they do is they come up with a theory that's ridiculous and not backed up by things like plausible physics, and then they cherry pick every little piece of data that they can find everywhere, and they ignore and attempt to suppress all the data that instantly debunks their nonsensical theories. This is what science hacks do. Real science people try to disprove our own theories, and when all of the corroborating data disproves our theories, we abandon them, grow as a person, learn something, and move on, not become ossified in beliefs that are not backed up by reality. Anyway, that rant is complete. Look for that rant showing up in our shorts, by the way. No, not because it's a brown stain, because it's going to be in the video shorts, youtube.com/video/smash-o-mash/shorts. youtube.com/smash-o-mash/shorts. Likelihood of radio blackouts is kind of low because we have very low solar activity, so let's skip that. Here's a diagram of the ionosphere. If you're wondering the altitudes of things, space weather starts at the D region and works to the photosphere. That's the lowest layer of the sun that's observable from Earth. Below the D region, we have mostly neutral particles. That's Earth weather. And let's get into it. But first, how about some lovely ionosphere maps? I guess we'll animate it today. I want to show you where the South Atlantic anomaly is, since it's now in the equatorial Pacific. Just give me a moment. Again, we are using a new browser, and it is like being on vacation. So much better. So much better. All right, so here is the ionogram. This is from Bureau of Australia. That's the Government Bureau of Meteorology from Australia. And the South Atlantic anomaly is It is. Yeah, it's up here at the equatorial. It's near the equatorial coast of South America. Right there, you can see it. So this is raw frequency. This is showing megahertz, millions of vibrations per second. It's showing you the ionosphere puffing up in the daytime and shrinking down at nighttime. If you're scared of double layers and triple layers and stuff like that, you don't understand physics 2, and you should take physics 2. If you're going to go around telling people that everything's electric, the universe is electric, 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 and you haven't taken physics 2, you're definitely talking out your posterior region. Anyway, here's the anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. You can see the African anomaly is right here around the west equatorial coast of Africa. The South Atlantic anomaly is here off the coast of the South American continent in the Pacific Ocean, just south of the equator. So it's not even in the South Atlantic, it's up here in the equatorial Pacific. And let's move on to Earth weather. Yes, Earth weather. Yes, Earth weather. It's fun. Now, we like to show the raw data and use the NASA Goes Interactive Weather Satellite Suite. Yes, I just searched there using Yahoo, believe it or not. Although, consumer tip, DuckDuckGo now features a way to shut off the AI controls. So you can get a regular search result on DuckDuckGo now. And you can tell the AI what to do instead of getting a crappy AI synopsis and a bunch of advertising. Like, there are settings in DuckDuckGo for all of that stuff. So I think DuckDuckGo is now once again the world's finest search engine because it has control, so you can tell the AI junkware what to do and to shut off completely, which is my favorite thing to do because it's barely functional trash. So there's that. Here's the visible satellite over the blue marble. And we'll bring up 30 frames here, show the full disk, put your chats back on the screen, and continue on with the Earth weather portion of this video. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists, by the way. We're frankly surprised that you've found the channel with the pathetic and frankly evil state of censorship on the internet lately, the past, I don't know, 12 years? All right, so yeah, there's the Atlantic sunrise. So Barb says, Silicon Valley people generally encourage you to think crazy. There's nothing wrong with thinking crazy thoughts. The problem arises when we do crazy actions, all right? You can think crazy thoughts all day long. Nobody's reading your mind. Nobody wants to read your mind. Nobody gives a what's in your mind. So, like, think crazy thoughts all day. It's when you start doing crazy things, like telling us that we need to devote all of the world's electricity to AI because reasons, or we need to devote 1/3 of the entire water resources for fresh water on the planet to AI because we wouldn't want to get saltwater corrosion in the cooling systems for AI data centers, right? Now, there are some good ideas, like putting data centers at the bottom of the ocean where it's super easy to keep them cool and it makes them more efficient. But putting them in space is so patently idiotic that I'm not even going to break down why. There are plenty of videos on YouTube which explain why AI data centers in space are idiotic. And the idea that we're going to put 100 megawatts of solar panels in space every year for the next 3 years is just ridiculous. SpaceX has no ability to build these things in space. They don't have the panels budgeted right. They don't even know what kind of panels they need to use in space because apparently they didn't look at the ISS. Like, the fraud, like Elon Musk, he just sweats fraud. He's just a sweaty fraudster who just like fraud just comes out of the dude's pores. It's pretty depressing. I mean, it's pretty soul crushing too, because like, look, it turns out you can be one of the richest humans of all time and still be absolutely piss poor and full of shit. Just like so many ridiculous YouTube creators that are paid massive salaries to lie to their viewers. If that's not enough to piss you off as a content creator, I don't know what is. But by the way, you should create a YouTube channel. Yeah, there's something that you do that people want to hear about. There's some opinion that you have that hasn't already been said 1 trillion times or something like that. There's something that you're good at that you might be the best in the world at. And you may never know unless you create a YouTube channel. So for all of our viewers out there, if you're looking to create a YouTube channel, we will help promote you, all right? We don't even have 6,000 subscribers, but we don't buy subscribers, all right? So we do pay for ads. There is a possibility that we can even boost your channel. So yeah, you should definitely start a YouTube channel, because things like sports and art and videos and music and stuff like that are going to be the future, and you're going to have less requirements to do boring, menial tasks. It's going to be a thing. Is it going to be a thing in 2026? Well, absolutely not, because certain entities are still trying their best to destroy the fucking economy. So besides that, everything's absolutely perfect, right? Let us know how perfect things are in the comments, folks, because we want to hear how perfect things are where you are. Is the economy doing well or horrendously? Does the stock market equal the economy, or is the economy the exchange of all goods and services and commodities throughout the world? Let us know in the comments what you think. I mean, what a joke. The economy is absolutely trashed. Over half of Americans can't afford their rent. But no, the Dow's at 50,000, bro. Speaking of ridiculous theories, some people think the Earth is shaped like an oblate spheroid. Those are just Neil deGrasse Tyson fanboys parroting Neil deGrasse Tyson's nonsense. Everybody who watches our channel knows that Earth is shaped like the French breakfast pastry. So join the Croissant Earth Society. Tell your friends and foes to stop believing NASA's lies. What the hell is the matter with you, folks? By the way, the merch is all about to go up in price. So there's that. If you are planning on picking something up, now might be a good time. Now, while new stuff is about to come out, so stay tuned for that, you may also pay more by spring. Yeah, everything's going up in price by spring. So anyway, we don't meme the same way as other channels do or other people on the internet. Just like the Smash of Hazard theme song states, been getting in trouble on social media since before its existence. As I've run game servers and gaming clans and scrim teams and message boards and gaming forums and all kinds of things, I am what you would call OG internet. Anyway, we've got some dry mass of air pushing its way here into Pennsylvania. It's going to eventually push out this moisture here, but it's going to take a while. We're getting trained as an atmospheric creek has formed, stretching from about Tennessee into the western Atlantic. So when your Doppler radar is unclear, try using the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suites, the water vapor map. If you understand the physics of atmosphere, then it will help to clarify things for you. So here is the forecast for our local viewers. Shout out to our local viewers. Lehigh Valley forecast is a high of 41 today with rain. Tonight, a low of only 33, so it's going to be quite warm. So probably cloudy. Tomorrow, Saturday, a high of 44, and Sunday, a high near 36. So we're going to get some wintry mix or something like that Saturday night into Sunday here. And here is your national Doppler radar map, courtesy of radar.weather.gov. And like I said, this is going to last quite a while, although the heaviest bands have just moved through. So by the way, we're located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, folks, if you're wondering. It is right around here. That is the Lehigh Valley. The seat of the Lehigh Valley is Allentown, PA, about 12 miles west of the Delaware and the Jersey border. We can practically smell Jersey from here. If the wind just shifts around a little bit, you could smell the foul, putrid odor of New Jersey. No offense to New Jerseyites. All right. Hello, PL12345. All right, here's our windy.com map, and let's take a look at... Oh, are we already on temperature? Looks like we're already on temperature. Check it out. It's so warm in Columbus. 50 degrees in Ohio there. So we got this flow from the southwest coming through, and it is going to be chased by some dry massive air. So up here in northern Wisconsin, it's still not that cold. But in North Dakota, it's negative 13 C. I'm sorry, negative 13 Fahrenheit. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, that's our windy.com temperature map. If you're wondering the coldest place in the world, it's probably Greenland, where it's negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Negative 44 at least. Anyway, that's the temperature. And we do have some lightning, which does strike twice, by the way. Don't assume lightning doesn't strike twice. Imagine if there's a magnetite deposit right under where you see the lightning strike. If you think the location of a lightning strike is far from it, what if there's a huge iron deposit right under where you see the lightning? Lightning definitely strikes twice. So, like, don't fall victim to that cliche. It could become an unsurvivable situation should lightning strike you. Most lightning strikes are mortal lightning strikes. I'll be careful of my language because of the pathetic censorship on YouTube. It's a real son of a bit turn when you think of it, because censorship is not effective. It's just evil. And if you look back on history, everybody who tried to silence people is remembered by history as being evil sociopaths, murderers, genocide types, folks that start wars. They all want their propaganda propagated, and if you are opposed to it, they want you silenced. That's the implications of free speech, and that is why it pisses me off so much. The pathetic state of affairs on Twitter and on Facebook and on YouTube and on LinkedIn and everywhere that's, quote, social media, end quote. There's nothing social about it. It's all corporate trash, just like your political candidates. They're all plutocratic corporatists. And like the same people that run, like, it's, oh man, I got to stop because it's pissing me off. And yeah, it's making me say, son of a bittern. Anyway, here comes some forecasts from tropicaltidbits.com. We're going to show the snow forecast once again. And actually, we're going to show the temperature anomaly forecast as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Here's our thermodynamics 2-meter temperature anomaly. Because we've got some anomalously warm temperatures and some anomalously cold temperatures. So let's show those. This is a GFS 72-hour forecast in degrees Celsius. So anomalously warm weather in the eastern part of the country. Some anomalously cold Canadian air pushing through once again, making it all the way down to places like Florida. Well, you see the map. That's why I'm showing it. Big temperature swings in Cuba. In Cuba. And here's our total accumulated positive snow depth change forecast in inches. Looks like the 4 feet of snow are finally done falling in California. And we've got, what the heck? We're expecting 4, 5, 6 inches in eastern PA. Dag. So that's going to be a wet snow, folks. Make sure you stay on top of your shoveling. When that wet snow falls, that is the worst snow to shovel. So if you want back and, leave it at 2 inches. Don't take huge shovels full. Stay hydrated. All the basic fitness stuff that we were telling people back in 2020 to survive things like Corvig. Pardon the sudden shutdown of the app. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that if I say Chad, or if I say anything like I just said, the app just mysteriously shuts down. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, folks. It only happened twice in the same day last week when I said Chad. Because, by the way, you got to say Chad like CHIDA out of the top of your face. So the way to talk like Trump is just only talk out of the top of your face. And when you get really excited, then you talk only out of your sinus passages. Okay? So like somebody like Norah Jones would talk out of her bowels. But Donald Trump talks out of the top half of his face. So that's how you do the Donald Trump impersonation. Okay? You just talk out of the top of your face, and then sometimes you talk even further from the top of your face. If you could make your voice come out of your forehead, that is how you sound like Trump. Okay? Chatter. Learn how to say Trump like chat. Learn how to say chatter like Trump does. It's very fun. Chatter. Just pretend you have a sinus infection, right? Pretend you have terrible sinusitis, and your sinus passages are just chatter. Chatter. We're very scared of chatter. That's why we send them trillions of dollars in tariff money, okay? There's nothing better for your, quote, enemies, end quote, than to send them trillions of dollars, okay? This is the way we do business now. I've got all the best, the most beautiful, the most amazing, the most spectacular advisors who totally are not economically illiterate. Anyway, there's your positive snow depth change forecast. We will close this out with the jet streams and the surface wind of planet Earth, and then show some more solar imagery, and then call it a day. So there are the jet streams of the Eastern world. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. Congratulations once again on realizing that channel exists. Here are the surface winds, and we've got strong winds here south of Kamchatka. Once again, we've got a lingering low. Central world's surface winds are looking like this. Shout out to our viewers from Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Or Near East. Am I allowed to call it the Middle East anymore? Or do I gotta say Near East? Because I wouldn't want to use a politically incorrect f***ing term at any point. Because that would just be wrong. Pardon my biting sarcasm, but this planet is definitely something to bite. Here is the jet stream scenario for the central world, jet stream scenario for the West. That's the Americas, if you're wondering. And we've got a strong and coherent jet stream over the U.S., so the weather will be pretty predictable here. It'll be largely moving from west to east. Here is our surface wind scenario, and we'll close out with some more solar imagery. So here's the house favorite wavelength. That's one of the many species of ionized iron that is covered by the GOES 19 SUVI. So that is what a very inactive sun looks like. And let's actually switch this. I'll let that play through, and then I'm going to switch this to 94 and 131 angstroms, because those are great wavelengths through which to view flares, and they're good at highlighting active regions. So this is actually the transitional corona, the middle corona, and this is great at showing magnetic filaments. As you can see, 94 and 131 angstroms are the best wavelengths through which to view flares. So there is 94 angstroms, and these coronal holes are so well defined that they're showing up in most wavelengths. So 94 angstroms is another extreme ultraviolet frequency, by the way. That is another wavelength of ionized iron. It's got a different number of electrons in the outer shell compared to those other species. So that's what an inactive sun looks like. But you can tell it's not solar minimum conditions because there are trans-equatorial coronal holes, like this super obvious one here of South Pole orientation. So yeah, that's what's going on space weather and Earth weather. And if you've got additional comments to leave, now would be a good time because this stream is almost completed. And yes, thanks for leaving a comment. All the sun. Yes, I am a free thought and free speech advocate. So I encourage free thought with zero limits. There is nothing that you can imagine that's going to like destroy the universe, multiverse, plane of existence, Earth, solar system, etc. So like cultivate your mental capacity, cultivate your imagination, like cultivate skill. Did you know that memory is just like a skill that you can get really good at? Yeah, you can memorize entire decks of cards, folks. There's a system to it. There's a system to practically everything. All you have to do is put forth some effort and you'll see some results. Sounds crazy, right? I know, right? Everybody wants to take a pill and become Superman. Well, that's not a thing. So terribly sorry. But here are the last 12 hours of the closest star in ionized helium. Note this crown prominence. That's not going to become an earthly directed coronal mass ejection anytime soon. This prominence down here, that's not likely to become a coronal mass ejection headed toward Earth anytime soon. But this filament is one to watch. I don't even remember if we've named it, but go over on Twitter, type in the hashtag #NameThatFilament, and you'll see all the named filaments for like a half a decade. So yeah, we've been doing it a while, the same way, you know, the Weather Channel has the need to name every raindrop in 2026. Barbarian 1111 says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Yeah, I would do that, except I have no enemies. There is not one person who has earned hate or enemy status from me. So, sorry, there just isn't anybody relevant enough to be my enemy. So, but that's where I'll close things out. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Once again, I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. And until next time, may that solar wind, coronal hole high-speed streams, be at your back.